together with the regional expert, Ducheng, and also Sinta. And we have with us today Peter, of course, because he's the project director of this Horizon Southeast Asia, pushing the frontier of research and sustainability. If I may take a few minutes, I would like to recap of what we have done, and also telling you why we are doing this enrichment day. So last year we have the project launch. At the project launch, if you remember, we have the ambassador of Germany to Thailand to talk with us why research is important and why the leaders in research is also important in getting us to deliver research that is relevant to our region. We also have the president of Thailand Science Research and Innovation, Dr. Pathamawati, who is also talking with us the importance of the research collaboration in this region. And then we have two big events organized in September. One is the Research Leadership Forum, where the presidents and also vice president in charge of the research was gathering at Asia Hotel. All of you were there, I believe. And, we have a lot of sharing, of the ecosystem in your country. What is the main challenge that you face, and so on and so forth. And then we also have the researcher workshop for the nominated researchers in your institutions to come and work together in the region. Then we have the researchers mobility programs. Now, if you remember during the leadership forum, we actually identified some of the key challenges. And actually we collected some of those key challenges. And we thought one way of doing it is to have the exchange and sharing from our colleagues from other parts of the world. Today we are very fortunate to have Professor Bill Puplampu, who is the Vice Chancellor from the Central University of Ghana, who is our extended network, and introduced by Peter Meyer, who has been directing this IDC program, International Dean course, both in Southeast Asia and Africa for so long. So through his network, we have got Bill. And Peter has spoken highly of you, who is actually successfully create the research ecosystem that is conducive to the staff to have the research culture in the university. So we would hear all of the challenges that he faced, all the good practices, not so good practices as well, so that we can learn from him. So we should see this Enrichment Day as a collective space where leaders learn from each other. So I don't want to Bill talk all the time, but at the end, please engage in the conversation. You can also share your thoughts. You can also share your challenge, and you can also share your good practices as well. That would be best because, we have a Thai saying, and I know that there is a saying like that also in English. 2 heads are better than 1. But I would also add more brains, better outcomes. So I think there are more clever brains sitting in this room, and I think we should learn from each other. So with that, from Senior Right, I hope that this session, we would learn how to create the research culture at your respective university. I know some of you are in different stages of development, but you can also share, learn, and at least try to understand what our friends is going through and help, each other in bridging those gaps. So with that, welcome. And thank you so much, Bill, for doing this. And I hand over to Peter, please.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Yes, it's my pleasure to welcome you all. And it's my great pleasure to welcome especially Bill Puplampu. We met 2012 or so many years ago, 10 years ago. At that time, we talked about research culture. At that time, Bill was a dean of a faculty, and he was about to develop the research culture at a private university. He's a psychologist, and he worked at the most renowned university in Ghana, that was University of Legon. But then he moved to the private university, Central University in Accra. And this is now the biggest, most renowned private university with quite an impressive research site and research activity level. And so for us, I felt it would be wonderful to listen to Bill, who is now director of that university. In Ghana, it's called vice chancellor, who is director of the university, and who is trying to create an atmosphere where people, where the staff, the professors, the instructors feel encouraged to do research. And when we discussed who could be a good speaker, we felt, Bill, you are the ideal candidate for us to share. He wrote as well about this issue, for example, the role of leaders in building research cultures in African universities or other publications. So he's not only talking about research culture, he's as well writing about it, reflecting it on it academically. And so we are quite excited, Bill. We are looking forward to your presentation. And indeed, after the first round of your presentation, about 30 minutes or so, we then will have a panel discussion. But we would invite as well our participants to come in with their suggestions, reflections. I saw, or we talked about your presentation, and I'm sure there is lots of food for thought. So on that note, thank you very much for joining. Thank you as well very much for the participants to join today, and we are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you. So, Chloe, should I just begin sharing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, right.
So now we move on to the presentation by Professor Bill. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, so colleagues, it's good to be with you, and I'm grateful to you all for the opportunity to share today. I must say that the structure I intend to use is to go through my acknowledgements and then to talk about the Central University story, then to look at whatever lessons we may pick up from that story, then look at the strategies that you may adopt at your universities, based on a few things that we may share and talk about, and then conclude. Let me quickly thank Professor Peter Mayer for the honor done me and the entire project team. I'm grateful. It is not always that you have colleagues recognize what you may be able to share, so I'm very grateful. Let me quickly also add that at Central University, we're not quite there yet. It's a long road. We're not there yet. I struggle with what I think we should have by now and still don't have. So the research process is a very difficult one to build, and hopefully we can all share, and I'm hopeful that I would also get some insights from what is happening in Southeast Asia. This is my understanding of what is going on in your region in terms of the intent to build up research and look at how skills will be enhanced and how leaders will work. The understanding I also have is that there are 6 countries and 25 institutions, and ultimately we wish to have key themes, 3 key themes in terms of river governance, sustainable agriculture, and climate change issues embedded within this project. To work with today, what I want to do is to look at 3 main areas. And those main areas are to determine the value of research in your institutions for yourselves, and then to establish the current state of research, and then to commit to a clearly defined agenda. These are the three big areas that I'd like us to talk about today. So let me move very quickly into the Central University story. These are initiatives which began around 2011, 2012, as Professor Mayer mentioned. And it began with a project action that I had when I was dean. Moving on very quickly, let me expand this for us to see. The history of the university is that we're one of the leading private universities in Ghana. We're 25 years old. We're focused on applied science and applied social science. We have 3 campuses, 7 schools, about 6,000 students, plus or minus. Our strongest programs are in law, physician assistantship studies, nursing, pharmacy, architecture and design. And in terms of architecture and design, we are the only other university, apart from one of the big public universities, that handle architecture and design in Ghana. In terms of faculty, we have 186 faculty members. Colleagues, the issue which in a sense got me on this road is that I was headhunted from the University of Ghana in 2010 to be the dean of the Business School of Central University. Immediately I got in, I realized very quickly that there was a big problem. And the big problem had to do with research output. Coming from the University of Ghana, I was quite well aware of how important research is. And so it was a difficulty when I got to the university and realized that the driving spirit in the university was just one of teaching. There were several teaching sessions, morning, afternoon, evening, weekend, and then there were 3 trimesters. So it was a short 10-week trimester, little break, another 10-week trimester, and then little break. It was running on the back of a semester system. So the faculty were really just teaching from January to December. Hardly anyone was attending any international conferences. There were no public scholarly lectures. And over the 5 years prior to my joining, there had been only 2 academic papers. Frankly, I was, put simply, as I have here, my conclusion was, Bill, make a change or get out. Because in Ghana, your reputation in respect of research follows you where you go. And if you are associated with a place that doesn't seem to be doing what it should be doing with research, you can't explain yourself later on. Well, I decided to stay and make an impact. And that's what led to the IDC Africa 2011 project. And as we say, and we all know, the rest they say is history. I was informed in this process by a paper that I read by Pratt and colleagues, and they wrote in 1999. And they had done a paper on the work they did at the University of Waikato in New Zealand, where they went through similar experiences and made similar changes. So what strategy did we adopt to try and work on the research culture and reinvent the ecosystem at Central University? On the right of your screens is the paper that Peter referred to that I wrote. And you can read it up later on. But let me focus on the diagram and talk through it very briefly. It's important to recognize the state of research output and to identify it for whatever it's worth. Clarify. So we did that. When we did that, we realized that there was a need for leadership from the dean of the school. I have to make it clear that research is important, members must engage research, and I am doing research. I instituted a series of research seminars in the school, in the business school. Then we worked on a research policy. Then we sought some very modest support from the university. Importantly, as Peter mentioned, my background is psychology, so I realized it's important also to articulate certain values which underpin what we want to do. So we did that. And then we focused a lot on direct mentoring and coaching. That meant, colleagues, that many times I called individual faculty members to my office. We sat down, we discussed what they were doing, we examined why they were not doing research, we talked through why they should be doing research, we looked at the excuses they gave, and then we actually went through areas and things that they could do to enhance their own research prospects. Now, to support all of that, we made some structural changes at the level of the departments in the university. We removed or did away with the trimester teaching system. Of course, we got the Senate Academic Board approval for that change in the business school. We try to focus a little bit on graduate programs. And we also made it clear that those who did research had certain benefits. So there was evidence of rewards and benefits of research. Fortunately, all of that led to a larger and better school research culture where people began to appreciate this and faculty research output began to grow. I think one of the important elements here was the institution of the research seminars and the direct mentoring processes, which helped each faculty member to realize that difficult as it may be, it is possible to do it. And because we did the structural changes in respect of the trimester system and so on, it also gave some space and some liberty for colleagues to actually have the time to do the work. So to build the research culture through a reinvention of the research ecosystem requires 4 key things that we did through our experience. We changed the structure of teaching and departments, if it's possible. Universities are all different, and doing such structural changes can be difficult. But where possible, we should look at those things, because oftentimes when faculty members can point to structural difficulties, such as the teaching from January to December, from September to the following August, it is difficult for them to align with the research drive. So those structural changes are useful. Then it's also important to align processes. So the university created a research and conferences committee where funds that may be available for research conferences were allocated, and seminars became an established part of the university system, not only in the business school. We encourage the actors. So motivation for researchers, leadership by the example of other deans. We got research coordinators appointed for various programs. And the appointment of research coordinators meant that you bring the ideas all the way through to the level of all the faculty members who can relate to these research coordinators, because the coordinators were lecturers like themselves. Then, importantly, we created a research policy regime. And it was clear from the appointments and promotions system that you do have to do research and publish. What were the challenges, my dear colleagues? Big on the table in terms of the challenges were anti-research behaviors. What I mean by that is some people simply resisted the prospects. Some people were uncomfortable. For others, it was just a clear unwillingness. I heard sentences such as, "There is no problem. This is not why we were appointed." There was no felt need to change. Another big problem was resources. And sometimes when you look to use money to motivate, you realize that money quickly loses its appeal. Then, of course, the national economic difficulties that Ghana has been through over the years meant that compensation for faculty was eroded. So sometimes people point to that and say, well, we don't have the money, so we have to look elsewhere for moonlighting and so on. Then another big area, big difficulty was leadership changes and leadership challenges. So sometimes when you work with a colleague as head of department and they can begin to see their way clear and make some impacts, then they change, they moved. And apart from the anti-research behaviors, there were some clear oppositions from some people. And that is difficult to handle, I must say, because you're torn between being an academic, freedom of speech and of association and of thought, as well as driving the culture, driving the changes that you want to see. It's also important to know that one of the big difficulties was that this thing takes a long time to realize the intent. It's a slow turnaround. And the consequence of that slow turnaround is that you, the leader, or colleagues who are doing their best can get burnt out. As I said at the beginning, after 10 plus years, we are still not where we think we should be. So these were some of the challenges. The results, however, have been, in a sense, commendable for ourselves. We've been encouraged. There's improved research interests in the last 10 years. Approximately 65% of faculty are now more interested in doing research, against 0 at the time when we started this. Then there's improved additional PhD holders. Approximately 40% more have now attained their PhDs, against and then promoted senior lecturer and associate professor, against about 5% at the beginning. And we have actually about 40% more papers and publications out of colleagues, against 2 or so % in the earlier years. We did a research reader series, which is textbooks that people could write. We celebrated events, beg your pardon. We celebrated events. And then we tried to reformulate the senior lecturer compensation scale. This is a university-wide thing, in order to ensure that people can see when you get promoted from lecturer to senior lecturer as a consequence of research, there is some financial gain that you get. Now, overall, then, what were the applicable lessons that we may pick up from all this? One, my dear friends and colleague academics, culture change is difficult. So oftentimes I like to say that the research ecosystem, which has certain parts and structures to it, let us work on those parts and structures. As we work on those parts and structures, the culture should shift in the direction in which we want it to shift. 2, university leaders, deans, rectors, provosts must stress the value and importance of research. We realize that leaders must talk a lot about 3 key things. that research consolidates or gives universities a place in society, that research enables us to develop inclusive science. And this is important for us in the global South, because as I'm sure Peter knows, most theories, most textbooks right across the world, you'd find that they're written by colleagues from the global North, the United States, Germany, Australia, whatever. And we always should ask ourselves, but what sorts of things are our students reading? So if you go to Indonesia, to Thailand, to Laos, what books are the students reading? Who wrote those books? Are those books anchored in the experiences of the country? So it's difficult, but we need to make these value points to our colleagues. And research also impacts business and national policy. So these are three big things that we believe research does that we must talk about on a consistent basis. So to strategize, colleagues, you need information about the structure and the situation of your research ecosystem. So one of the things that we encourage that we should all do is to audit and assess the state of the current research architecture. So look at exactly what the situation is for your university. Now, I was privileged to receive a copy of the pre-project report. And immediately I picked up this slide, which talks about the difficulties that the main challenges with respect to research in the Greater Mekong sub-region. Lack of staff, lack of funding, access to journals, poor access to journals, and so on. Those were the difficulties. Now, I checked up and found that in the Gulf cooperation countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, and so on, the issues are very much the same. And if you read some of the papers that we've generated about Africa, the issues are also very much the same. So it tells us that in auditing or looking at the research architecture, what is important is not necessarily asking questions about why research is weak, but asking what structures do we have on ground? What processes do we have on ground? What policies do we have in the university? And how do we appoint faculty? These are the big questions we must ask ourselves in respect of the architecture so that we can make changes in these areas. So we make the point that to build an ecosystem, you have to identify and work on its structures, because it is the soil, the water systems, the trees, and so on in the ecosystem in terms of natural geography, which build that ecosystem. So what is the soil like? What is the water system like? Same for research. And that's what we're saying here. So what strategies should we adopt? There are 5 areas that I wish to mention or to recommend to us. The first is to have a discussion about the type of university that we want to create. Across the region, we're looking at 25 different universities, 6 countries. What types of universities are each of these countries and institutions trying to create? Then we need to look at specific interventions, and those should be based on the review of the structure or the architecture. So the review in one university in Laos may suggest different things for another university in Vietnam or in East Timor. So this is very important. Then we should task leaders with specific responsibilities for different parts of the process. Then work on specific ecosystem governance issues, and importantly, standardize the research quality assurance. So in terms of the discussion about the type of university, you will find in the literature 4 different types: research universities, teaching universities, scholarly consulting models, and then engage universities. So in order not to take too much time, you can look up the material, and there's a paper that I wrote on this in the British Academy Journal, the Journal of the British Academy, in 2022. And it details some of these things so you can have that discussion. Importantly, colleagues, we know that we don't all have to be the same in terms of research approach or type of institution. We don't all have to be the same. Out of the 25, there may be those that are stronger in teaching, stronger in research. So we just have to note these differences. And really, variety is the spice of life, as they say. So we don't all have to be the same. Now, in terms of the specific interventions, my dear colleagues, I take us back to what we did at Central University. If the assessment of your situation is like what ours was, then these are the interventions you may want to look at. Leadership from the dean, research seminars, research policy, support from the university, articulation of relevant values, and direct mentoring, and then structural changes if your assessment and your review of the architecture suggests these to be the case. Then the last paper we wrote on this, we made some very important points, Puplampo and Como and others, about what leaders should do. So we suggest, colleagues, that university leaders, right from rectors, presidents, all the way to deans and so on, must intentionally stress research culture creating events. So promote those who do research. We must influence faculty towards research behaviors. We must encourage, for example, your colleagues to engage with the 3 sub-themes of your project. There may be those who may want to look at climate change. And from what I'm understanding, for example, climate change is not only in terms of climate biology and so on. There are the social science aspects of all of this. So let's encourage them to get involved in all these 3 tracks. Then lead by example. Where possible, work on faculty compensation. Then clarify the expectations of what we're asking faculty to do. For example, say that, look, why don't you come up with a good research paper once every year? Why don't you do research seminars in your department once every month? Why don't you do engagement with businesses, institutions, and regulators once every semester? These are very clear, specific interventions which enable the creation of the research system. Now, the point about leading by example is one that I just wish to share with you. When I was appointed as Vice Chancellor in 2017, since then, I have tried hard to publish and work on 7 papers, 3 conference presentations, 2 national and 2 international public lectures, and member of 2 international research teams. And some of the papers are there. Now, the reason why this for us in Ghana, given our culture, is that many times when you, the leader, are not leading from the war front, the rest sit back and they point fingers. Well, he's telling us to do it, he doesn't do it. Of course, they don't see that, you have so much work to do that you should be excused. But in a sense, what you're trying to do is to get them to do the research. What you're trying to do is to get them to appreciate research, impactful research. So we have to drive it from the front. So that is one thing that I did. It's paid off in a sense, because anytime we have a big meeting, I can say to my colleagues, look here, guys and ladies, you're creating a problem, look at me, I'm doing it. And of course, colleagues, I understand that it's not all of us that may be able to do it in this way, but we only just make the point. So creating the enabling environment for impactful research to thrive we need to look very critically at the research governance arrangements. And so I like to stress these points, colleagues. Let's establish structures for research administration. Let's not leave it to chance. Let's not leave it to individual faculty members to do whatever they want to do. Colleagues, let's have cross-fertilization and movement of research. And I heard earlier on when Ramin was talking about the mobility. That's very important. Also, colleagues, rectors, vice chancellors, and presidents should establish a sort of driving group. Because if you have a driving group and collectively you have some objectives and some intentions, you will find that even if one of you finishes their term and goes, the rest gather around and push the agenda. Leaders must be seen to be collaborating and perhaps possibly invite each other to your institutions to give public lectures, and so that across the region, colleague faculty members can see that our leaders are working together on this matter and showcase evidences of the impacts in the greater Mekong subsystem or sub-region through your high-level events. So as research takes place on climate change or sustainable agriculture in Vietnam, talk about it in Laos. We must have peer and other review mechanisms to establish quality research. And so heading to the end, would like to say that look at how research and researcher training can take place. This may call for a research development center. Look at how you can connect to international trends, because increasingly research is international and co-creation is very important. Working together is important. And look at research quality systems, ethical clearance, authorship of papers that are written, who's first author, who's second author. These things are important because the ethical dimensions are very key. If you have graduate students and people work with the graduate students, what are the protocols, what are the systems to ensure that they are recognized in the process? So you don't have, as we've had in some places, a faculty member works with 3 graduate students and goes off and publishes the work on their own without mentioning those graduate students. These things are damaging to research. We'd also say that it's important to have centers of research excellence. And we found in Ghana that having centers of research excellence has opened us up to applying for World Bank grants relating to excellence. And in some places, they're getting things in the region of 2.5 to 5 million US dollars. And that is helping focus attention on specific areas, long-term projects. So you may have one for the region or one in each university, one on climate change, another on sustainable agriculture, another on river governance. I don't know. It's really for the project to look at, but it's very, very key for research center of excellence to be created. For that, you may find that the advantages are it attracts capable and ambitious researchers from across the world. It focuses the work of each theme that you have and provides a vehicle to attract funding. You may need what we call an Office of Research, Innovation and Development, but again, different countries have their approaches to these things, but the research center is important. If you have a research center, colleagues, these are some of the things that it can do for you. Manage research, manage partnerships, work on commercialization and copyright and other things, help on ethics, manage funds and fundraising, help on reporting, policy matters, scholarly papers, helps to identify businesses and so on that can help you with funding, and helps to administer health and safety protocols with regards to ethics and ethical matters in research. Oftentimes you find that international funders are very concerned about the safety of research respondents and so on. And so you need to have very clear standards for achieving those. And if you don't, the funding just will not come. Sometimes this depends on finances. And so I suggested we talk about it, but it depends very much on each institution. The research office could assist you to create a strategic plan for research for the institution. Now, this is important for the ecosystem. A strategic plan tells you over the next 5 to 10 years, what are we going to do with research? Plan also gives you a sense of the sourcing funding that you may have and internationalization. Dear friends, if you don't work on internationalizing your work, a key advantage is lost. And that is, it remains locked within Vietnam, locked within Laos, locked within Thailand, locked within East Timor. But we must inform the global conversation. And that is something we should look at very carefully. So in conclusion, dear friends, research culture creation is difficult. So my suggestion is look at the ecosystem structures, some of the things we've talked about today, teaching systems, research and conference systems, and so on, and create those against the desired results that you have. Talk about the values of research, encourage certain practices which support research. And as you do these, over a period of time, the research culture will be developed. In conclusion, my dear friends, I'd like to say that it's possible to build a strong research ecosystem that gives you the results you're looking for in river governance, climate change, and sustainable agriculture. I suggest that you break it down to school level, faculty level, school level in your respective universities. Sometimes when you leave it at the level of the higher university, it can become difficult to manage. Break it down. Train groups of willing faculty members, celebrate those who do well, celebrate outcomes and policy reports, and strengthen the cross-national and cross-institutional collaborations, and if possible, create the centers of research excellence. I must add, my dear colleagues, that it takes time and it is difficult. So let's be patient. As I sit here and talk right now, dear colleagues and Professor Peter, sometimes I tear my hair out because I'm like, we should be here, we are not, but let's take it easy. It comes with time. It's been 10 years for us, and I only have about 2 years more to go in my term as Vice Chancellor. And I know there'll be stuff that I'll have to leave for others to continue, but at least we can point to the work that we have tried to do. On that note, I'm thankful to all of you for your attention. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Bill. This was a firework of ideas. So congratulations. Lots of wonderful ideas. And actually, I saw your presentation before. I thought, no, he can't make it in 35 minutes, but you did. And actually, it was very clear and very precise. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's hear first from Sinta and Dusheng, who are both very experienced researchers themselves. They are both Humboldt Fellows. They come to Germany quite often. They publish as well. I think they follow a similar path to be a role model themselves by publishing peer-reviewed journal articles on a regular basis. So maybe Sinta, we start with you. I mean, now you listened to Bill Poplampo's presentation. What is the idea which catches your mind, which is most intriguing for you? Which idea did you feel is actually the most important one he emphasized or so?
Okay, Peter, thank you. And before I comment on your question, maybe I would like to thank you, Professor Bill, for the very enriching motivating and insightful presentation. So really enriching me, and you give the explanation step by step, and it's make me feel that, oh, I need to really do something more in my research activities in my institution. But I want to highlight two of your exciting slides. So most of the slides are very fruitful, very deep explanation, but let me just emphasize these two slides. The first one, I think it's slide number 26. Regarding the importance of the leadership by example. As Peter also mentioned, that's I think this is the highlight of your presentation today. So you give your own example as a university leader, but you can still act as academics and productive researcher. So even though you have many governance and managerial responsibility. So I think this point make us all aware that we should not look for reason not to do research. I think during our discussion, even in the Horizon Southeast Asia project, sometimes we discuss among us as a leader that it's already quite busy being leaders, being a rector or vice rector, and we have a lot of excuse. But this is, I think, through your presentation, we learned that it is very important that we really consider ourselves and doing the important things of the leadership by example. And this is because we work in the organization called Higher Education Institution, and this is completely different from the industrial things. So that's why we need to have this leadership by example. And also, as you show us also in your slide, only by example can we convince our faculty members to live out their vocation, to become impactful academics and researcher. So your slide reminds us to reflect and start building a research ecosystem within the institution we lead. And it must begin with ourselves as a role model. So we cannot deny when researchers meet, like I meet you, Professor Bill, or I meet other researchers, they measure our quality as academics and researcher from our productivity. Maybe they will track our name and they check it through the ResearchGate, to the AIDS Index, and also our research track record. So Professor Bill, I think you touched on the essential essence of being an academic leader. And the second highlight on your last slide, your conclusion, you mentioned about the model for building a research ecosystem. And the meaningful quotes you include are really very beneficial. So again, I think the message to all of us, the participant of Horizon Southeast Asia, both as leaders and the other group as a researcher, we can build a research ecosystem using a variety of approaches, depending on our resources and our various starting point, can be top-down and also bottom-up. So I think this is my highlight.
Thank you very much, Sinta. So the leadership by example, being a role model, I find that quite demanding once in a while when you are a leader and you are always meant to be the person who shows it's possible. It's quite demanding, but yes, it's impressive, and that's definitely true. And the second argument, the ecosystem, this is a new word actually for me. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I felt everyone is talking about the ecosystem, but it's a good word because it's describing there are many aspects which are creating an atmosphere for being productive. Du Sheng,
Yeah, thank
who
you.
is the former vice president of a private university in Malaysia. Okay, Tusheng.
Thank you, Peter. Bill, thank you very much for the great talk. All the kind words have been, or good work have been used by Sinta already, so I should not repeat here. I have basically I pick up 2 points that I want to share here. The first is when you mentioned about the changing the structure, changing the structure, I think is a key to enable our colleagues, our peers to venture into research, because research requires skill, specific skill, and also require a lot of time. And the failure rate is high, it's really high if you're doing real research. The problem is when we hire staff, we are not hiring them for research, unfortunately. As a private university administrator before, we hired them mainly for teaching. Then when we want to change our direction, we require them to do research. This is a very different things, so that's why the resistant or anti-research behavior that you have mentioned in the article. So to enable one of our key work as a leader, and I totally share with your point that whether we restructure, realign the process, all this actually is supporting them to go to that direction. Unfortunately, we can't force them if they are not made for research, because research is not meant for everybody anyway. The second point I want to, I think you asked the question, what type of university are you or do you want to be? This is a question that I asked myself when I had to lead this university, the multimedia university. Unfortunately, I'm not like you or Sinta. When I have to hit the vice president, actually just like a second person who run all the internal matters. I have 22,000 students, 18 direct reporting, almost like a provost plus student affairs and so on, everything. So I have no time for research at all. I totally dropped my research for a couple of years because the university facing some challenging time, and I found that there are more urgent and priority matters that I need to handle as leaders. So I think it's like what Sinta says, it's really context based. All your sharing is definitely helpful for us to rethink how we're going to manage the research in our university. At the moment, I think if you want to refer to your point for my university now, the situation is we want to go for higher ranking. That is what they want all the time. So we are forced to publish paper and so on. And at the end, we lost the essence of why we want to do research. It's not for publication. Publication is just a side product. It's not the aim. It's just an outcome. I remember when I did my Humboldt Fellowship in Darmstadt, nobody asked me about publication at all. No one required me to report whether I have publication. What they want is what kind of problem we are solving. So I think if we want to direct our young colleague back to research path, I think the best thing is ask them what kind of problem they want to solve for us. Yes. Thank you. I think, Peter, I shared it here. My feedback.
Yes. So thank you very much. Let me, before we open for the floor for everyone, I would like to ask one more question concerning anti-research behavior. Bill, you are saying this is one of the issues. You might have in your institution an anti-research behavior. Can you briefly explain? And then I would like Sinta and Tusheng briefly comment on how they observe this phenomenon. Anti-research behavior. I think I sense that in my institution as well, and that is quite important. If that is really strong, then it's a hindering factor in our endeavor to become research oriented. So what is it exactly? Anti-research behavior.
Thank you, Peter. Maybe I think I'll start off by referring to what Tusheng talked about. One of the big anti-research behaviors that we have noted is counting publication counts. So we find some people are ready to write and send their work to predatory journals just so they can count up publications. And that is anti, because it's not sustainable, it doesn't work, and it doesn't push the boundaries forward. So that's one. Another is people moonlighting and refusing to recognize the importance of the broad range of different activities which an academic is called to. And sometimes you have to understand the pay is low. When you're talking something in the region of $500 equivalent, whatever, on a monthly basis or plus or minus. So sometimes the pay is low. So you have to appreciate that. But the implication is that, again, colleagues just don't have the time to invest in credible projects over a longer period of time. Another one of these anti-research behaviors is, and that Shinta mentioned about the importance of the leadership by example, is really where you have other leaders in the institution who flatly refuse to lead by example. They just don't. And they sometimes are difficult, even in terms of their own teaching is a problem, yet they're deans and vice deans and so on. And they don't do any research because they think they have become senior lecturers or associate professors and they now deans, so they just don't need to do anything. That is anti. And you have others who have opposed, faculty members themselves, who are just opposed to the fact that we should do research. Again, as Duchenne mentioned, we appoint typically to teach. So they then push back and say, well, I was not appointed to do this. So for us, one of the things we began to do was appointment letters were changed radically and classified the work of an academic into 4: teaching, research, institutional governance, and extension services, advocacy, and so on. So those are in the appointment letters. And that was one of the ways in which we dealt with this oppositional mind of colleagues. And another of the anti-research behaviors, Peter, is that when you have gone to the trouble of making sure that the institutional budget reflects a certain amount for research, and then colleagues simply don't access the budget. So at the end of the budget year, the money is sitting there and it goes back to chest. So these are some examples of the anti-research behaviors.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Yes. I remember when I joined my university, there was one colleague who published, and he was telling me that people looked at him and said, oh, it seems for your ego, you really need to publish. So he felt this was anti-research behavior. Yeah. I mean, he did what he felt what is the role of academics, and people interpreted it as or portrayed it as something which is just addressing his ego. So right. Sinta, how do you look at anti-research behavior in your experience?
Yeah, in my experience, I think when Bill also present how he tried to bring the institution from 0 until 65%, I think, already involved in research. I think this is really a very good strategy. I mean, Bill showing the very good leadership, helping the, faculty member who are not really eager to do research and then becoming involved in the research. Even in Indonesia, or saying in my institution, so far we only have around 40% of the faculty members, the lecturers, are conducting or doing research. And anti-research behavior is also happen, as mentioned by Bill, moonlighting or receiving more money for easy money compared with doing research, because when you do research, normally you need a skill, like skill for writing proposal, writing publication. You need a very strong patience for doing research, and it's take time. And compare with saying a teaching job or moonlighting, I think teaching is more exciting or effortless for anti-research behavior people. So I think this is cause not so many of faculty member can conduct research. And another things that's also create the anti-research behavior, because I think for doing research, we need a very strong critical thinking, curiosity, patience, and a focus on research really require extraordinary discipline. So it's not everybody have this kind of talents or behavior. So maybe because of that, so we still find that in every country, in every institution, leaders need to encourage. And why having, I mean, the importance of becoming a role model is very important, because then the only way to push or to drive the community, I mean academic community, is doing the example. So I think during our managerial or leadership period, we will find out this kind of challenging, but the only way is lead by the example, and also, of course, having another strategy to build the research ecosystem. Maybe that's from my point of view, Peter.
Thank you. Du Sheng.
Thank you. I never use the phrase anti-research behavior in my university, because we from day one, when we receive our appointment letter, the research component is there. The KPI is measured from day one, so everybody understands that you have to publish. Our struggle is like what you experience too. We run a trimester system where there's no rest of gap of a long period of time that you can focus on research. But the KPI is there from day one. We had to do it, and the main problem is the output. So we measure. There's one time I performed the whole university 800 academic staff research activities. So I can find that 20% actually very active, and the rest actually depend on what they involve, whether the supervised student get research grant, international grants, or they publish in high impact journal and so on. So, but what we can see is, for me, is we recruit staff that have different talents. Yeah, we are not MIT. No, 100% is world-class staff. No, there are staff that need help. Staff that when we recruit, maybe sometimes their PhD training actually is not adequate. They are very specialized, high-skill technician. Yeah, but in terms of formulations of research problems, learning about how to come out with new research methodology, all this actually is very weak. Maybe they only know once. So it's not really a fully developed researcher to me. So it takes years. Many of our staff actually been recruited directly after PhD, yeah, because we like our PhD holder in specific. So there is no postdoc training for them. So to me, it's it's too demanding. If we ask them to jump from one stage to another stage. I will not label them using that phrase the entire, but I just think that they need help because the business model of the university trimester system, because of the financial cash flow needs, we need to practice this way. And basically, it takes away your passion sometimes because of the urgency of work and so demanding about students, especially private university, you have to answer all student requests and so on. And so we understand it, but at the same time also, we want to achieve our goal. We want to make sure that our staff is highly qualified and publish good journal. So that we come up with reward and for them. We assist them in training. But over the years, we can see that some actually progressing, some actually give up, even kill their passion because of the pressure of work, also life maybe. So I think as a leader in the university, we have to be have empathy on this. Yeah, all staff have a certain time, but what we can do, we have to make sure that we understand their struggle and then provide the adequate training. And then maybe sometime in our MyUC, we have two schemes. We call AA and AB. AB means that it's focused on teaching. AA is you have focused on research. But of course, for promotion path, there's only a research path that will get you the promotions. Yeah. So Peter, I think that's my response to anti-research behavior. Thank you.
I recently participated in an accreditation of a university in Central Asia. And I learned one of the peers was saying, oh, some of the articles published and mentioned in the CVs, they are published in predatory journals. And then all of a sudden, that was new for me. It became clear that actually people knew about it. They knew about it. It wasn't that they did not know. It was kind of, okay, there is international pressure. So okay, I mean, at the end, they pay for the articles. Is that an issue that people know exactly it is actually not legitimate, but then still they do it? So I felt that would be a case of anti-research behavior. Anyhow, so please feel invited. If you from Thailand or Vietnam or Myanmar, if you have issues you want to ask or you want to bring in, feel free. This is a good opportunity to reflect and come in. Bill, clarifying research expectation. In our case, that is an issue. That was an issue. So you say you changed the appointment letter. I actually like that idea. That I mean, maybe in Du Sheng's case, it was clear at the beginning. In my case, it was not clear. Earlier times, we were a pure teaching-oriented institution, and there was no expectation to publish or to do research. Maybe now the expectation is to do research, but not necessarily to publish. So you say that was an important issue in your institution to sort of clarify, to send a signal very clearly. This is what we would like to see.
Indeed, Peter, it was so important for us to make it clear that contractually, we want you to do research. Contractually, we want you to engage with society and with community. The university is embedded within a larger context, social context. And as an academic, we want to hear what you're doing within that larger social context. So that element was very, very important. Now, the clarifying the expectations also goes to, again, what some of the things that Du Sheng mentioned in terms of having the trimester system. Now, we had it, and we realized that if we didn't tackle that, we could not provide or state expectations for faculty members in terms of spending time on research. In other words, organizational supports are very critical. Fortunately for us, we're a smaller university, and we're only 25 years old. And I'm sure Du Sheng's institution is a lot older and it's more difficult to change. So we could tackle that. It took a while. It took about 2 years, because from my desk as the dean at that time, I had to make the proposals. It had to go to our faculty board, and it had to go to the Senate before it went all the way to the governing council of the institution to remove that structure and then be able to clarify the expectations. Now, one of the big expectations that we clarify as we go along is that those in the business school should link their research with businesses in Ghana. Those in the law faculty should link their research with practicing chambers out there. Those in pharmacy should link their research with pharmaceutical practice in Ghana and elsewhere. So these are expectations that increasingly we're trying to stress. And you mentioned the predatory matter. We've made very clear that we do not accept predatory fly-by-night, 2-week turnaround papers. And if you submit same for promotion, we will do the due diligence. And if it doesn't work, if it's not, we will throw it out and then maybe later on help you with training to see where you went wrong. But it's important that, so we made that very, very clear. So these clarifications, Peter, are so critical. Thank you.
Clarifying. Yes, Sinta.
Yeah, I think in Indonesia, the case in Indonesia, from time to time, the government and as well as in the institutional level, we receive a kind of information from the National Research Agency in Indonesia telling us about the predatory journals. So, and the regulation, for example, if we want ourselves to be promoted as a professor or a higher degree in academy, so supposing that they find that one of our publications come from the predatory journals, there is a possibility that our title or our like professorship will be take down from the governments, because professorship is not from the university in Indonesia, especially for private university, but from the ministry. So I think the consequence of doing this kind of cheating, also something really give an impact consequence to our research career. But I would like to emphasize about how to clarifying the research expectation by enabling certain important activities. For me, to expose the researcher to international joint research activities as a consortium is very important. A consortium of researchers from many countries working on a collaborative projects. For example, our Horizon Southeast Asia project consists of 6 countries, 25 institutions. This will provide meaningful benefits if done very seriously. So I'm involved in 2 European Union funded research consortia, Erasmus CBHE and Erasmus CS for All, and also consortium for sustainable urbanization funded by Humboldt Foundation. And I experienced the interaction of researchers from different fields of knowledge, from different research culture, different experiences and competencies, as well as the languages, really enrich the team very quickly. So this kind of activity has proven to build a research ecosystem for each institution involved. So we get best practices, research productivity, international exposure, and also researcher mobility. So I really would like to invite all Horizon Southeast Asia project participants to take advantage of this cross-sectoral collaboration between 6 countries and 25 institutions to the maximum extent possible to produce productivity, fruit in research and governance for our respective institutions, and also for Southeast Asia to have a long-term impact. So this is our opportunity, and time flies very quick. It's already one year of the project. So I think it's better for all of us to really sharpening our activities, our collaboration, and start proactively to do what been suggested by Professor Bill. I think that's my point, Peter.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Romyen, she is not only the head of an institution, but she's a role model as well in terms of publishing. publishing. So I read some of her articles anyhow. So Romien.
Right. I would speak 1 minute because actually we have only 10 minutes remaining, but I think this is such a good opportunity for us to actually ask questions from Bill, because what Bill has done is having a paper that published 2 papers in 5 years, but he managed to actually boosting a lot of his staff to actually do more publications and also research. I would like to encourage the floor to actually asking questions. So please, because we have limited times. So, I know some of you would say, oh, we don't really have resources. So if there is any question that you would like to ask Bill or Sinta or Du Cheng, then please do. No question or comments. It can be also the challenge that you have. Just turn on the mic or put the questions on the chat as well.
Yeah, Kaya Win, Kirtikara raised question.
Yes.
Okay, please.
Okay, so thank you for giving me a few minutes. I don't think that my time would be for asking questions, but I think I just want to add on to the comments that Professor Pupampu and Shinta and Du Cheng made earlier. I think the first thing is that I really agree that having the atmosphere or ecosystem to support research is very important, especially having the office that is dedicated to support researchers. We have similar office like this, and they have the task of working for the professors to help them from through the whole value chain, from pre-award, looking for opportunities, looking for funding agencies calls, doing the matching with foreign partners, all the ways to submission, to negotiate the contract, to post award, follow up on the time to send in the reports, follow up on the time for the closure of the proposal, financial report, and then doing tech transfer, liaison with the industry or community. And these are special people that you have to train them specifically. I think it takes time to build up this office, but once you take this task from the hand of the professor, they have more time to concentrate on what they do best, which is doing research and write the proposal. These also will take care of compliance, animals ethics, human ethics, working with genetic engineer organism, these kind of things. Then the professors don't have to know the details of all the rules and regulations. I think that's the first thing that I agree that is very important. The second part is that I agree very much with Du Cheng that's saying that research is not for everyone. I think the university has to look at the overall portfolio. Some are strong in research, some are strong in teaching, and some prefer to have work like academic services, doing training to the industry or solving industry problem or training to the community. As long as that they have to fulfill these 3 categories, but different concentration, different percentage, I think they will be motivated to emphasize on what they like. And you can ask for different output. You can ask for papers, you can ask for patent, you can ask for industrial service, you can ask for community engagement, that kind of output that you can sort of like grade them differently. And I think the third part that I agree with a lot is mentoring. For KNUTT, the mentor for research, we already passed that. I think what problem we have is mentoring to have people engage with industry and community. Doing research in laboratory, we consider that it's probably the easiest thing right now. But doing research that are meaningful to the community or meaningful to the industry that can create real impact is a bit more difficult because you cannot think of the problems yourself. You have to ask problems from the end user. You have to engage them. You have to learn how to talk to industry and learn how to talk to the community. And also what you create in the lab. For example, I can think of, like water turbine. It works in the lab. But then when you take into the stream, okay, it might be working. But then when you have to leave that for the villager to maintain it, that's another story completely. So I think mentor is important for those who have experience with industry and experience with rural area, would have to bring people out to the lab to create real impact with your research. And I think the fourth part that we talk about is incentive. I think incentive can be good things and also can be bad things. We have experience with monetary incentive for people who publish. And yes, they publish in predatory journals, and then we have to catch them not to publish in predatory journal. The new thing that we have experienced problem in Thailand right now is authorship buying. Or onto the website, you agree to pay, you pick the paper, the first slot is $1,500, the second slot is $1,200, the third slot is $1,000. And these get published in good journal. You would never know until you somehow find a way to catch them. And I think incentive is difficult. You have to balance. But for us, we find that KMUTT never pay monetary incentive to the researchers, but we reward them in terms of other things that would boost their research activities. For example, we give them package like scholarship for graduate students, scholarship for postdoc, special money if they want to invite visiting professor from abroad, and also money to go to conference. We said that we will never pay money directly to you as a reward, but we will help you build your research group by this package. I think that's what I have to share. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful examples. Thank you very much. Highly appreciated. Indeed, helping those who want to endeavor into research by having mentorships, by having structures. This is really, really helpful. In our case, for example, we have an office which helps us to apply for research funds from the European Union, because it's very technical. And when you want to apply for the funds on your own, you spend weeks and months, or ethical standards, to follow up on the ethical standards in terms of data protection here in Europe. It's crazy. So when you do lab work and with animals or so, and well, you need experts who really know how to make sure that you follow the standards. And concerning incentives, I'm with you. So I'm actually a bit skeptical when we move too much into monetary incentives. Bill, we come to the end. Please, you have your final observation. What is? I mean,
Peter, before you give it to Bill, I have one question.
Yes.
We have done research for the research ecosystem in the GMS countries. And very often people say, we have the issues with the resources. So maybe the question to Bill, also Ducheng and Chinta, if you have no resources at all, and you have to improve the research ecosystem, what would be the one thing that you can do straight away without resource as a leader?
Peter, should I go?
Yes, please.
Well, to answer Ramian, it is a big issue for us here in Ghana as well. Resources are very limited. So what I tend to say is that for those of us in the more social science areas, where you can do a lot of pencil and paper questionnaires or focus group interviews and go into institutions and so on and do those things without huge expensive equipment, I say, look, the work you do enhances your career prospects, enhances the visibility of your institution, and builds you up. So whatever you can do through the ethical approval systems on your own, please do. Let's look at the questionnaires, let's approve them, go and work on it. Let's see what you would do with focus groups, let's approve them, go and work on it. If you have to take trips into primary schools and hospitals and healthcares around just to observe and write it up, do it. So even without the biggest of resources, many times there are things that individual researchers can do under guidance to get some work going. And then we look at how, with the increasing profile they create, they can look for some funding, international and so on. So that's what I'll say to Ramian.
Okay.
From here,
So Sinta?
Yes. So in my experience as well, the research ecosystem was built by bottom-up manner. Started only from two passionate researchers. They do research work within very limited resources, but they're becoming a role model, and they utilize the network because they have graduated from Japan, from Germany, and then they start building the collaboration with their supervisor, and then also the collaboration with their other researcher in the national level. So in short, I think there is everything is possible when there is a willpower, commitment, and consistency to live out what we are called to do. I think that's the message from me.
Thank you. Hussein?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, money should not be the problem because in research, if you have a genuine problem, needed problem to be solved, I think there's money coming in. People are looking for good project to fund. There are a lot of funding. You can find. The question is whether you have a good idea, whether your idea is something unique that you can help something or solve some issue. So to me, we should come back to the issue of quality of the talents, because research really require quality talents. It's not an easy job. Yeah, it's pioneering knowledge and going to a new area, finding new way to solve problem also. So I think, again, it's not for everybody. That's what I try to say. Also, I also find that I only can do certain level of research. I cannot do very fundamental and very frontier type of research because of my ecosystem here limited me. But we can strive for that if we have the passion for research. Research is my hobby. I never think research is a way to build my career anyway. But unfortunately, most of the young academics, when they join academics, right, they have been educated that you must do research, publish paper because you want promotion. I think that is something that kill their passion eventually. Okay, Peter, back to you.
Okay, so Bill.
Yes.
I mean, we have your presentation and we will share the presentation. And for the participants who could not participate today, we will have as well the recording. So that will help us to reflect on it. And I felt your presentation was very, very and at the same time with lots of ideas which we can really think about how we can change our institution. So you have only 2 years left at the Central University, so you should have more.
2 years.
You should have
2
more.
years. I can't wait, Peter.
Yes. So what is, I mean, when you take all these recommendations, your main recommendation would be to work on the structures in order to create the culture, or what is your final sort of message for us before we close the meeting?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of us for participating. Indeed, my main message really is that the research evidence out there about culture change and culture improvement is that it's so difficult. There was a paper back in 2003 by Smith and others. You only get about 15 to 19% success if you focus on the research change on the culture change directly. So you take it from the back end, and which is, what structures do we need to build? What associations and relationships do we need to foster? How can we encourage, mentor, and build and work on all these different ideas that we have? For those, as Duchenne has been stressing, it's not for everybody. For those that is not for everybody, so what do we help them with? And so the system needs to look at all these different elements. And once we commit to, in a consistent way, colleagues, the consistency is what is so important. Once we commit to these in a consistent way, the Oxfords and the Cambridges and the Harvards and the MITs and the USCs of this world were not built overnight. They took their time, several decades. So once we commit to this in a consistent way to build the structures, ultimately, Peter, we will get to the point where the money is not important. The structures almost recede into the background because the values and the behaviors are aligned. So that is what I want to leave us with. Let's work on the structures. Let's commit to the process. And ultimately, we'll get there. I look forward, really, to hearing a lot from this project. Some of your challenges in your areas are similar to ours. We have a challenge with managing our river system, which is being polluted by illegal mining and so on. So I look forward to learning from you all in due course. And I thank you very much for the honor done. Thank you.
We will make sure you keep we keep you involved, and we will make sure that we will meet again. So thank you very much. That was a great start of our Enrichment Day series. It was really a long list of ideas, but well structured and well organized and really helpful. And I personally take many lessons home, and I'm sure we all. So thank you very much for all of you, as well, the participants. And the final word, Romien will have. But thank you to you. Thank you to Dusheng and Sinta for the comments. Thank you to our Tanya, Wim, Kirit. It's so sorry for finding it difficult to pronounce properly your last name. But such inputs are extremely helpful. Thank you to all of you who participated. And thanks to Ploy for organizing so many things. And now we hand over for the final. It's like when at the end of the sermon in the church, you wait for the amen. Now we wait for Romien to Romien.
Thank you very much, Peter. And actually, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Bill, who has done a great job in leading the discussion. I think he's been sharing a lot of good ideas. And I think Chloe would send a PowerPoint presentation to you all. You can see it as a catalog where you can pick and choose where you want to start to implement in your institutions. You can see what is applicable. Thank you also for Ducheng and Sinta for kindly engaging in the discussion and reflecting as well on Bill's ideas, sharing the context in Malaysia and also Indonesia. Thanks, Peter, for kindly moderating this and direct the whole project. I know many of you have lots of questions. I actually having a direct message to me and said, we are not only having issues with the resources, we also have other difficulties. And I understand that. And I would like to have this enrichment day responding to your needs. Ploy is planning to organize 2 more enrichment days for next month and then month after next. So please, if you have the topics that you would like us to address, because these topics, I think Ploy is having lining up, is coming from the challenge that you have listed on the first President Forum, the Leadership Forum. I think it will be on how to organize international conference, what it actually means. And also another would be on, I can't remember, Ploy, what is another one?
Let me checking a little bit real quick.
All right. Okay. But anyway, I think we can still be flexible. So we want the enrichment day to respond to your needs. So write to us, and I want you to also engage. So you can ask questions if there is anything that you would like to pursue and you still feel like it is a challenge. We can share. As I said, more brains, better outcomes. And for this year, apart from the 3 enrichment days, what we would have is that in September, we would meet again, for the leadership workshop, and it will be in Vietnam. So we are planning on that. And also the researchers workshop would also be in Vietnam, back to back. And the topic that we would cover this year would be international rivers management. And you probably see that there are so many movements going on in the region. And I have explored that there is no real solid researchers network on the international rivers management yet. So with that, I hope to see you in person again in September. And meanwhile, stay safe and hope to see you again on another enrichment day. And please feel free, because this is a common space of learning. I know we all have different difficulties, challenges, opportunities, but I wish we do share so that we know what are the challenges that you have to face and what we can actually contribute to bridge those gaps, in the region. So with that, thank you very much. And in Europe, have a good morning, the remaining of the morning, and good day. For all of us in Southeast Asia, have a good time and enjoy the dinner tonight. So see you again soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, President.